What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with our first preview / prediction for the Detroit Lions 2022 NFL season. It is opening week against the Eagles, and you know the Lions are looking for a little bit of revenge after last season. So let's get it started.
Fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we're going to do it this year.
And we're going places, because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to a video. Glad you guys are here, and we are back with our first preview prediction video for the Lions. And I do plan to do like the pick'ems and weekly fantasy this season. However, just by the way that it worked out, it wasn't able to work out this weekend. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my schedule is going to look like this year, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to watch or stream this game tomorrow. So Dan Miller is going to have to hold it down for me, but I know he will, so that's going to be great. Also, because of that, I'm not sure when my takeaways video is going to come out, again because of the schedule, and also because I can't do a takeaways video if I don't get to actually see the game. So this week's going to be kind of strange, but going forward, we should start to find kind of what normal is, and then we'll kind of just adapt and we'll figure out what that schedule looks like heading into the 2022 NFL season. But football is here, and while I may not get to watch it live, I am going to listen to it. And man, there's just that weird feeling that you kind of get, because it's like, man, Lions football is here. It's like just that excitement that you can't express. I know you guys have it, especially for this week, knowing that I'm going to be unable to watch the game, but instead just listening to it, it just takes you back, man. It takes me back to when I was way younger, just listening to Lions football games. Definitely wanted to bring my preview / prediction for this game, my score prediction, all of those things for you guys and for the Eagles fans. Shout out to any of the Eagles fans that are watching this game. How you doing? If you're an Eagles fan, you're watching this, shout out to you. I appreciate it. So yes, tomorrow's going to be strange, but it is Lions football, and we're hearing that it's a sold-out crowd in Ford Field. So you guys, whoever's going to this game, please hold it down for me. Please make tons of noise, be extremely loud. I want to hear you from here, please. Actually, I don't, because that would be kind of annoying if I heard you from here. Start off with the Lions participation report, Friday's participation report. We didn't put out a video on that. I saved that for today, so we're going to tie that in, as well as some of the minor roster moves the Lions have made before this game, and then we'll dive into my preview / prediction, give some of my key players, my keys to winning this game for the Lions, and all of that stuff. And then finally, we'll end it off with a score prediction. Starting off with the Lions and Eagles participation report from Friday. You guys can see it on the screen. This is picking up from Thursdays. Really, the only change that we had for Friday's practice was Frank Ragnow improving to limited participation. We did get to hear from Frank Ragnow, and as he stated on a Wednesday about halfway through practice, pop in his groin, he said, and he thought it was going to be actually a lot worse than it ended up being, because as we're seeing that he's improving now, he's back to limited participation, and he couldn't say whether or not he's actually going to play, but on Friday, he did get back out there working with the starters, which is fantastic news. So we're not sure whether or not he's actually going to play in this game. However, he said he was cautiously optimistic that he would get to play. And if you asked me, I would bet that Frank Ragnow does play in this game. And we know that's huge without Big V, because, hey, missing Big V is one thing, and that's really tough. But to miss a guy that's next to him, right, your top center, one of the best centers in football, is also going to make it really rough, especially against this defensive line, specifically in the interior. Oh my gosh, they are loaded. They are absolutely loaded in the interior. We're going to talk about that. But Frank Ragnow improving is great news. Didn't see him much last year. We didn't see him in the Eagles game last season. Evan Brown was in his place. So we know if we can't go, Evan Brown is a guy that can fill in. The Lions feel pretty confident in that. I'm not really sure what the Lions are planning to do with the guard position if Frank Ragnow can play. It doesn't sound like they're going to be moving Frank Ragnow to the guard position. However, they still could. As we know, Tommy Kramer is now out for this game. As you guys can see, 3 straight days of no participation, dealing with a back injury. So he will not be in. So the Lions have options, of course, pushing Penei Sewell into guard, putting Matt Nelson at tackle, which I don't love that idea, but the Lions could do it. They also could play Logan Stenberg. We know they added a couple of guards, so those guys are also possibilities as well. We talked about that on Wednesday, but I don't think the Lions are going to go that direction. So we'll see how they get creative with this. Again, I like the idea of moving Frank Ragnow to guard and then playing Evan Brown at center, but we'll just have to wait and see. Aside from that, all of the rest of it pretty much remains the same. No changes in participation. Now with Levi, he actually was placed on IR, I believe today, so he's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks of this season, which does open up a roster spot. Now, as of I know, the Detroit Lions have not filled that roster spot that is open. They'll probably do it after this game. However, at least as we know of now, Levi is going to be missing the first 4 weeks of the season, which is something I kind of thought was going to happen initially once he got through the 53. That way he wouldn't be out for the year. But once we saw him on the injury report, I was like, well, hey, this is, I guess, kind of good news because maybe it's not that serious. But as we know now, he is going to hit IR, which I think just makes sense. That way you can open up a roster spot for someone else. We'll see how the Lions decide to handle that. But they did add guys to the interior. Specifically, Dan Campbell did talk about Benito Jones, who they picked up from the Miami Dolphins. And, of course, they got guys like Isaiah Buggs from the Pittsburgh Steelers that they feel pretty good about what they have in the interior because I don't think anybody expected Levi was going to be able to play this weekend anyway. Also, you have John Kaminsky, who's in for this game. Same thing with Chris Board. That's great news. It started off this week with limited participation. You're like, okay, what's going on there? But he's going to play in this game. So the Lions have their off-ball linebackers in this game. If he is doubtful, even though he's been limited all week, again, I was really curious to see how the Lions utilized him because this is a game where when you talk about matchup with guys like Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, who did not play against us last season, where you wonder if he could be utilized in some ways. However, it looks like he's probably not going to be playing in this game. Julian Okwara was listed as questionable, but based on the roster moves that the Lions announced today, I question his status. Get it? Questionable question. Okay, stop. And then you also have Austin Seibert, who is in for this game. So that's good. We have our kicker. The 2 roster moves that the Lions announced today was activating, because you can activate 2 players off of your practice squad for game day, are 1, running back Justin Jackson, and 2, linebacker Anthony Pittman, who made it back to the Lions practice squad. Now, again, if you remember when Julian was out, Anthony Pittman initially basically started as our Sam linebacker. And when the Lions are adjusting a little bit more to a 4-3 stylistic defense instead of the 3-4 that they kind of ran last season, kind of the Okie that the Lions ran last season. They actually ran that against Philly where, you know, they had their big bodies in the interior. It's just going to be a different style that the Lions are running. So maybe that puts into question a little bit more of Julian Okwara's status for this game. We'll see what happens there. I would love to have Julian. I think there's opportunities for him to make some plays in this one. So we'll see if that's the case. And on the Philadelphia front, well, everybody's good to go, it looks like. As you can see, full participation for Josiah Scott, who's one of their depth cornerbacks. And aside from that, everybody's good to go for Philadelphia. So they're pretty darn healthy. We also have Justin Jackson, who's going to be active in this game, and I think Justin Jackson is one of those guys with his skill set that if the Lions decide to give him some carries, I would be on board because I do like the style that he plays with and how that can match up against Philly, who has a pretty darn good run defense, specifically because of how dominant that defensive line can be when you just look at what they are on paper. And also last season, they only allowed 4 yards per carry, which is pretty darn good as well. So with that all being said, we've laid out the injury report. You know who's going to be in, who's out, at least as much as we can know until tomorrow we'll have the inactives. However, we need to dive into my 3 keys to the Lions winning this football game. The 3 things that I think the Lions have to do well offensively and defensively to have a good shot to win this football game. Now, hey, they don't have to hit on all of these. They don't have to do all of these things well, but I think these are key components to the Lions finding a way to pull off what I guess is technically an upset, even though they're at home, just based on the betting odds for this game. I believe the Lions are 4.5-point underdogs at home, which means, yeah, they do like Philadelphia in this game. Considering they're the road team, usually a home team gets like 3 points. But regardless, with that being said, let's dive into my 3 keys for this game for the Detroit Lions. I had to dive a little bit. I, of course, rewatched multiple times our game last season against Philly. Had to take a look at how Tampa Bay, shout out to my man Michael Banks, tell me to do that. Had to see how Tampa Bay took care of Philadelphia in week 1, and also other games like the Giants and things like that from last season. So there was a couple things, of course, their preseason first game that they played in, and the couple series that they had with their starters. So there's a lot of things I had to take a look at to come up with these keys. So starting off on the offensive side of the ball, and this one feels like kind of a boring and basic key, but it is a key. Okay, I'm going to stop saying that. I'm sorry. I'm saying that word a lot. Let's just stop. Let's move on. Let's not use that word that much. The 2 offensive tackles for the Lions in this game. Now, this one seems kind of like a lazy, take. However, it is very necessary to bring it up. Last season, the Lions, of course, did not have Taylor Decker in this game. It was actually the last game that he was out before he returned against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Having Taylor Decker back is going to be huge for the Lions in this game. Of course, Philadelphia decided to address a little bit of that edge rusher position. They didn't get a lot of sacks last season. They also are not a team that really blitz blitzes at all. And I don't know if that's going to change. Maybe they get a little bit more aggressive with some of the defensive back additions that they've made with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Also, James Bradbury at the cornerback position to possibly be the number 2. Maybe that now they feel pretty good beyond Darius Slay that they decide to get a little bit more aggressive. But I don't really see that being the case because they are a heavy zone team. But when you talk about the pass rushing side of things, they added guys like Hassan Reddick wearing the number 7. We did get to see him in their first preseason game, as well as already having players like Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, who actually came in after Hassan Reddick came into the game. He kind of rotated in for Hassan Reddick. So to think Brandon Graham could technically be like a backup is insane. That's what they're looking at the edge rusher position. And you know they're looking to improve upon the pressure rates that they had and, of course, those sacks last season. And for the Lions, it wasn't necessarily all about like, okay, how many times is Goff getting sacked, even though he did a lot. It's more so just the Lions being able to open up their offense a little bit more than they did last season. They came into a lot of problems, and it was this part of the year where the Lions were really struggling to open up their offense. Not only did they not have their top offensive tackle, arguably in Taylor Decker, their left tackle, they also did not have a top wide receiver in this game. Trinity Benson was arguably their number 1 in this game. So with all that going on, the Lions offensively were pretty darn limited, and it made it really tough for them on early downs. I'll save that. However, they were kind of limited. So the Lions having their top 2 tackles in this game, I would like to keep them both at the tackle position in this game, is going to be huge, and it's probably going to change some dynamics just of this game alone, because we have 2 really good tackles in Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, and that changes a lot when you have your top 2 offensive tackles and what that means not only for your quarterback but also for the run game. So it sounds like a boring key, but it is something that I have to bring up. Now, to tie that in with kind of the run game, liking a guy like Justin Jackson in this game, I don't really know how many carries he's going to get because he's kind of coming in as like running back 4, even though Deuce Staley said we don't have a starter. Whoever earns it, right? We get that, but I don't expect Justin Jackson to get a lot of carries. Now, he may return kickoffs. That's something to keep an eye on because we know we did give Craig Reynolds some of that opportunity, but Justin Jackson also had that opportunity. The Lions, we didn't really know who their kick returner was going to be, so this could be mainly for kickoffs. We'll have to wait and see. Regardless, I like Jamal Williams and Craig Reynolds and also Justin Jackson. I like how their skill set really matches up against this defense, specifically when it comes to rushing the football. Okay, this defense is really good at getting penetration into the backfield. They have guys that are extremely explosive, whether it's Williams, whether it's Javon Hargrave, of course, the addition of Jordan Davis and how explosive he is for how big he is. I mean, they have some guys that can be problems in the inside, and I like those style of running backs. You remember DeAndre Swift really struggled the last time we played them, but we also didn't get a lot of opportunities because we fell behind and we were just in trail mode pretty quickly going into the second half. But Swift didn't run the ball very well. I want, if it is going to be DeAndre Swift, to just, hey, take what's there and go. Just get upfield because this is a team that's going to be getting penetration and they can blow up plays in the backfield. They love to slide their safety into the box against us last time. Part of that is a result of not having much of a threat on the outside because of the receiver and the tackle position. So they constantly, they weren't even disguising it, were putting a safety in the box and running cover single high shells against us, which made it tough because they had an extra guy in the box a lot. And sometimes it would just, he would be the guy that made the tackle. So for me, the back in this game, especially if they're doing that, needs to just get downhill. Pick up the 4 yards if they're there and just, live with that. So I'm looking at those couple of guys, and if it is Swift who gets the majority of the carries, I'm looking for the same thing from him. Get it, get upfield, and pick up what you can, and let's continue. Because the Lions, as Deuce Staley said, they're going to run the football. That's who we are. Another key that I have offensively, this ties in with the run game. Let's just keep it going. I don't really like running the ball towards Milton Williams. Now, you're probably like, wait, who is this dude? Because of all the names that they have on this defensive front, he was a guy that I noted in our game, but also in other games, that was a problem along the interior. Wearing the number 93, of course, I think a big part of this as well is seeing how they utilize Jordan Davis in this game because they have a player like Fletcher Cox who you can actually have some success running towards Fletcher Cox. I know that sounds strange, but I think that you can, especially in zone blocking schemes, where you can get a double team initially and then a lineman can work up to the second level. I think you can actually have some success running the ball towards him. However, Williams, oh my goodness, was he a problem running it towards him last season. And his ability to get into the backfield was a problem. He can cause some negative plays, I think, on his own. And he's kind of one of those guys that you don't think about when you talk about all the names along this defensive line. But he constantly flashed to me when I was watching this defense. So if you're going to go to some of these zone runs, I'm okay with running the ball away from him. I really am. Now, I'm curious to see how the Lions look to attack this defense. There's many ways to do it. The Lions tried to go to some draws last season, and they didn't really have a ton of success because sometimes they would just get blown up. I'm curious to see how they do it. Different teams have taken different approaches because this is a good run D, and I don't expect it to get any worse. If anything, it's probably going to get better with some of their linebacker additions in White and Dean, but also what they have on the defensive line. If you're going to go to some of that zone running scheme, well, if you look at a team like Tampa Bay, they did a lot of their rushing out of the shotgun, and I think part of that was because it allowed them to, a lot of times, keep a two-shell look in the defense, which kept the guy out of the box, and of course, they could do some power run plays from the gun. Just say, hey, look, if you want to put an extra guy in the box, we're going to be in heavy sets as well offensively, and we're going to beat you one-on-one, right? We're going to win these reps, and we're going to be the better player in this game. I'm also really going to be watching the tight ends and how they block in this game against some of their matchups, because I think they're very important, especially when you try to get to the edge. They've talked about Hawkinson's improvement run blocking, even some of these duo blocks. So I'm curious to see how the Lions look to utilize that, but 93 is a guy that I am definitely going to be keeping an eye on when I rewatch this game, and I'm sure I'll hear his name from Dan Miller, but I hope I don't. My third and final key offensively, because I try to limit it to 3, we could be here all day, is finding a way to attack their cover 3. This is a team that, what I noticed, runs a lot of cover 3. They also run some cover 6, of course, when you go into some of those 3-by-1 sets, and cover 4. Now, we didn't see a lot of cover 4 when they played them. The big reason, of course, was we didn't have the kind of threats that they were really worried about to play that type of coverage. So because of that, they sat in a lot of cover 3 against us. Against Tampa Bay, they played some cover 4. Against us, they played a lot of cover 3, single high safety. So have ways to attack this defense when they do that, and they probably will pretty often. Now, I'm sure they're also watching the same film and saying, okay, this is how the Lions attacked us last year. They're probably going to look to do possibly similar things, so we got to be able to take this away. And you see how the Lions are looking to attack them and the matchups they're trying to create with TJ Hawkinson, because in this Philly defense, because of the style of defense they played, we got a lot of matchups with TJ Hawkinson one-on-one with a safety or a linebacker. We created those matchups. The play that we didn't pick up a 4th down, I don't know if it was audible to or not, we ran that same concept and Jared Goff ended up taking a sack. So they showed ways to attack this team, right? When they have kind of the 2 guys running off deep, and then they have their tight end in the slot, and he's able to work and make an out-breaking route, and we have that matchup that we like with a safety trying to come downhill or a linebacker trying to slide out and take it, and you already have that kind of natural leverage in the route. However, I would say specifically for the Lions, make sure you have someone possibly on the backside that you can come back to off of that route, because I'm assuming the Philadelphia is going to be very, very weary of that, and I would look to having a backside route that you can come back to, whether that's a slant or whatever it is on the backside to maybe a running back or a quicker receiver, something like that on the backside the Lions can go to when they try to get some of those matchups, because I think that's a big reason, and I don't know for sure, I'm predicting here, why they went out and got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. This is a team that had a lot of safety matchups against the tight end last season and things like this because of the style that they like to play. They are a heavy zone team. Their defensive coordinator does not run a lot of man coverage. Where he came from, they did not run a lot of man coverage in Indy. This is a team that was bottom 5 in man coverage, okay? They're going to run a lot of zone. So they understand that there's certain matchups teams are going to try to find. Love the one play that Tampa Bay ran, because this is a team that will give you cushion in coverage. All right, this is a team that will play their cornerbacks back a little bit and give you some separation on the outside, and you can look to attack that, right? If you got a one-on-one, the cornerback's giving you cushion, you can look to attack that with some kind of, curl route or some comeback route on the outside or some hitch, whatever it may be. You can look to attack that one-on-one, and I think Philadelphia is probably going to continue that unless we prove that we can take a shot or win some of those outside one-on-ones because of the fact that they have James Bradbury and Darius Slay now out there. You can look to attack those. Philly tied for the highest completion percentage in football last season at just under 70%. They would give you completions. We'll see how that changes with some of their new additions. They will give you completions, but they also had the lowest yards per completion allowed in football at 9.7. They played softer coverage, but they did not really allow you to get over top consistently. Of course, the Lions didn't really do it at all last season. Their biggest play was called back because of a flag, I believe, in terms of yards in the air through the pass. So find cover 3 beaters, because that's what they do a lot. They play a lot of zones. The zone beaters are going to be very important. I love that play design that Tampa Bay had when they did kind of like a swing screen, and they ended up having their 2 guys on the outside because usually they're just running off or showing that they're going to block because they are blocking. They ran both vertical, and of course in a cover 3 you can open up those seams. I like it because he had the check down, and if it wasn't there, he could hit the seam quickly. He could fake the check down and hit the seam, and if the seam wasn't there, you could come back and hit the check down, just exposing some of that zone coverage style. I like that. I would look at kind of route combinations like that for the Lions to kind of bring out in this game. But this was a team that gave a lot of production up to tight ends last year, and TJ Hawkinson is a guy I would keep an eye on because they may emphasize trying to take him away, which of course guys like St. Brown, who absolutely took off in the second half of the season, are going to be huge because, again, you're looking at matchups. But last season, the Philadelphia Eagles allowed 107 receptions to tight ends last year, which was first or the worst in the National Football League, as well as the 6th most yards to tight ends last season. I think it's just the style that they play, and I expect Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to be a big part of that because, as the Eagles said, we believe he can play some safety, and I think they're going to utilize him to try to take away some of these tight ends with his physicality. So I'd keep an eye on that, have that backup option on the backside to go to, and that could be Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll see how the Lions decide to utilize that. We'll make a little note of something to watch for. Jared Goff did change up the mechanics, his quarterback coach that he had this offseason, of now putting his left foot forward instead of his right foot like he always has in the past. And he noted that the reason that he did that was to really open up that left side to get it there a little bit quicker, just because the mechanics of how you may have to flip around versus having your right foot forward. So it's something to watch for because he did not change this with being under center, which is a lot of times what quarterbacks try to do is line it up with shotgun versus under center. So let's take a look at how many passes that he completes, because one thing that's really tiny that I do think of is that Jared Goff has historically always been a much better right side passer, specifically taking shots down the field. So does this affect his effectiveness taking shots towards the left side now that he's made this little switch? Well, we're going to find out. Now, defensively, my 3 keys defensively to slowing down this offense. What's interesting is that this is an offense that last year, at this point, halfway through the season, they switched and they gave play calling duties to still their offensive coordinator, Shane. I don't really want to try to say his last name because I'm going to mess it up, so I'm just going to rock with Shane, all right? That was their offensive coordinator last season, and halfway through the season, they really changed stylistically how they were doing things, sort of like us a little bit, mainly because we got some guys back, but for them, they went very run-heavy, and it actually started really in this game, which is why I think when you hear coaches talk about this game, and they're like, you know, this we didn't really expect some of the things that they did, it's because they became very run-heavy, really starting in this game. Jalen Hurts only completed 9 passes for like 100 yards, but going from this game on, they really leaned on that run game, and they did pretty well. I think they finished the season 7-2 starting with our game, right? Because this was a team that was 3-5 at one point and they ended up making the playoffs. So they leaned heavily on the run game. So you wonder a little bit, are they going to continue to try to do that, or are they going to kind of revert back a little bit more to more pass heavy because of the additions of a guy like AJ Brown, and that's why they went out and got guys like that. Also keep in mind, Miles Sanders didn't play against us last year, who is a very dynamic weapon out of the backfield. You saw that in the preseason. So my first key, and I don't mean this at like a shot at Jalen Hurts, but I think this is something the Lions should look to do. Number one, and I love how Aaron Glenn does it, disguise coverages. I know we already touched on this. I would look to disguise a lot of coverage if I'm the Lions in this game. What's going to be key to this is that the Detroit Lions have success on first down. This is really on both sides of the ball. Lions offensively, when they did not have success on first down, their drives usually basically just stalled out after that. You got to find a way to not have so many negatives on first down. And that's why I say, hey, with the running backs, if you're going to run the football, get the 3 yards and let's go. You know, I don't need you dancing and losing 2 yards because then it sets us back, and that's not the team you want to get set back against is the Philadelphia Eagles. But defensively, even more so, the success on first down is going to be crucial, I think, in this game. The Lions have to find a way to, yes, they're going to give up chunk plays. They're going to give up first down runs on first down. It's going to happen, all right? It's not going to be perfect because they're a good team. But for the Lions to possibly get Jalen Hurts in a couple of second and longs, I think goes a long way for the Lions defense. That's going to be critical in this game that the Lions can do that, because then defensively, I think you start to open up the possibility of a guy like Aaron Glenn to disguise some coverage. And I think the more you put on Jalen Hurts' plate of becoming more of a drop back passer and not being able to play through the run game or lean on the run game, the more you become a problem for this Philadelphia offense. And the more you put on the plate of Jalen Hurts, drop back passer in this game, the most I can. I want him to beat me like that, then beat me on the ground, because they showed last year they can beat you on the ground. So I want them to beat me like that. And if you can do that, it all ties in with disguising coverage. Jalen Hurts is a guy to me that not all the time, but showed times last year where he was looking to go with the football, but if you could disguise it or make him hesitate or make him not take that pass, a lot of times I think after that his kind of natural instinct was, okay, let me start to utilize my legs. And that would happen even if there wasn't pressure. Let me start to utilize my legs. Now with that, pressure helps. Lions really didn't get much pressure at this point. So Aiden Hutchinson, Hopefully he can give us a little bit, because there were times where it's like, dude, what are you supposed to do with this pocket? There's no one getting there. Sometimes Lions just blitz 3 because they're like, hey, no one's going to get to the quarterback anyway. Let's just drop multiple guys into coverage. But for Lions, disguising coverage, I think it's been huge. You can force Jalen to throw some passes that really aren't there, and he doesn't always get deep into his progressions, and then he's starting to look to utilize his legs, sometimes even when he doesn't have to. You got to stop the run. And I'm very interested to see, my second key, how the Lions defense looks with some of the changes that they've made. Clearly through the preseason, they've been able to stop the run, specifically on the inside. Now, they've given up contain, but I don't worry about that as much in the regular season because the Lions are scheming for the Eagles. And last year against mobile quarterbacks, they were really darn good. Jalen had the most success because he had multiple big runs, which really came out of scrambles when we were in a cover 3 defensively, and they would run some sort of beater, right? They would pull our corner out of the play, and that would also take the linebacker, and then all of a sudden there's this gaping hole for Jalen Hurts to run. But aside from that game where he had like 70-some yards rushing, and he averaged about 50-some on the year, we did pretty well. Lamar Jackson really was held in check. He had one nice scramble. That was it. All right. Justin Fields didn't have really any success. Kyler Murray had like no success. We're pretty good against designed runs against quarterbacks, which we know this is a heavy zone read team. They do a quarterback, option. He has option to keep the football. They do a lot of that, especially in the second half of the season. The Lions have shown some success there. Scrambles, rush lanes, all of those things. However, I'm curious to see how the adjustments look, because when you watch back last year, I think it was an issue about how much the Detroit Lions are playing more reactive, and their defensive line I didn't think was good enough to play that last season. They had to do it because of what they had, but it just did not match up. And against a dominant O-line like this, you were kind of getting just pushed back and ran out of the building. You're asking your linebackers to play more patient, and a guy like Alex I thought looked really bad in this game. He was just kind of waiting on things, and the defensive line, there wasn't many wins on the defensive line. Every once in a while you get a play and it's like, that's good. But aside from that, we were getting just ran all over. The Lions getting and attacking more defensively, I think is going to make it very interesting to see guys like, number one, Aleem McNeil. Aleem McNeil, in the small reps that he played, will play a much bigger role this time around, was really good, I thought, against Philadelphia. Every time he was out there, I thought he was impactful, whether that was from the 1 or all the way to the 3 technique, all right, outside of a guard. He was good last year. I look at him, Michael Brockers, who was clearly trying to play aggressive, and that's why I think this scheme will suit him a lot better. And then, of course, the backers, because a guy like Alex I didn't think was very good last year in this game. A guy like Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, who could be an X factor in this game, because Malcolm is just where he is supposed to be, and he could be the guy that I think could contain a lot of these outside runs, which Philadelphia loves to do, way better than what Jalen Reese-Maben and our other linebackers did last season, where we would let things get to the edge. Malcolm can be a guy that really helps us contain a lot of those things. So I really am curious to see how this attacking front looks versus last year, and I actually think schematically it's going to help us a lot more in this game in particular. And then my final key in the passing defensive side is 2 guys that I think have been very big targets. They weren't leading in targets last season for Jalen Hurts, but it's 2 guys that I think Jalen Hurts trusts a lot. Number 1, Dallas Goedert. All right, we're back to the tight end on this thing. One guy I bring up is Dallas Goedert. One reason is Tracy Walker, I thought, showed us a lot last year, and he's been improving so much in coverage. I would love to see how Tracy Walker matched up against Goddard, because I think we can do that. And also there are times where I think Jalen Hurts can really force the ball to Goddard even when it's not there. Dallas Goedert is a safety blanket for him, especially with all the scrambling. Dallas Goedert's going to be key to really slow down in this game. Devontae's going to get his. He's really good. But Dallas Goedert's the key, as well as Quez Watkins. We have Mike Hughes, who likely is going to get a lot of the matchup with him from the slot. That's a new addition for us. Quez Watkins is a really nice receiver, but I don't think he creates a lot of consistent separation. I'm curious to see how this matchup goes, because at the catch point is going to be key in this game. Kind of similar to the opposite side, where a guy like Darius Slay, those guys, they're going to give you underneath completions. But when it comes to the catch point, beating Darius Slay at the catch point is tough. Beating James Bradbury at the catch point is tough. These guys are great at the catch point. Lions receivers, if you take those opportunities, are going to have to just straight up win the battle. They're going to have to take it to them. It was cool to see Darius Slay go against Kenny G last year. And look, Slay was making plays at the catch point on Kenny Golladay. So you're going to have to win those. We're going to see a lot of, Jeff Okudah on Devontae Smith. Last year I thought Jerry Jacobs did pretty darn well against Devontae Smith, but they didn't really throw the ball much, so it was a small sample size. And then I think Amani on A.J. Brown. It just makes sense stylistically. Even though I like Jeff Okudah against bigger receivers, I think based on those 2 guys' skill set, it makes more sense to have Amani on kind of the bigger receiver in A.J. Brown, like he was against A.J. Green when he had some success against the Cardinals, and put Jeff Okudah on Devontae Smith, because Devontae Smith can be thrown off his route. He can be stuffed at the line of scrimmage. The Lions like to get press and physical. Jeff Okudah is a very, very good press cornerback that's beyond his years in my eyes. So to me, that's the matchups I'm kind of expecting to see on the outside, which leads me to my 3 players to watch in this game for the Lions. Number 1, Ali McNeil. As I said, he was really good in the small reps. I think he could be a catalyst. I know they have a good offensive line on paper, but I think he could be big time on the interior because there were a lot of times where I felt like he was beating his guy. Amongst a good interior offensive line for Philly, he was winning those battles on the inside. I look at Ali McNeil continue to dominate and really make his presence felt in this game. Same thing with Michael Brockers. But number 2, TJ Hockenson. We're going to go to him, I think, a lot, especially in the red zone. And this is a defense that did give up a lot of red zone scores. Usually when you got a red zone, more times than not, you were scoring a touchdown. 67% of the time when you got a red zone against a team, you scored a touchdown. But they still can be stingy. That's where I like to TJ Hockenson to just win his one-on-ones. And then finally, Tracy Walker, as I said, he's going to have his hands full as well as Mike Hughes in this game. I look at Tracy Walker to be big time. You could point a lot of different directions here. When it comes to the pass rush side, I would like to see Charles Harris work a lot against a left tackle, okay? This is a left tackle that can struggle with speed, can struggle with some of the dips, the speed around the edge, and I think that's more in kind of the range of Charles Harris, where he had a couple of wins last year. There was one where he forced Jalen out of the pocket completely. He had a couple of pressures last year they played them against their left tackle. I like that matchup better than I like Hutchinson, as well as Julian if he's in the game to match up against their left tackle. And then I like on the right tackle side, Aiden Hutchinson and work against Lane Johnson. Our pass rushers didn't seem to really do much against Lane Johnson, and I feel like with Hutchinson's power, agility, he could give problems to Lane. But really, they're interchangeable, but he could give problems there. And again, Malcolm could be the X factor of this entire game when it talks to spying, containing, keeping things in the pocket, keeping some of those outside runs inside, forcing it back to the defense, and doing a much better job than we did last season in that area. Those are my keys. Those are my players to watch, which leads me to my final score prediction, which has changed since my 30-20. Look, Philadelphia, they're good. They're a good team, right? And I think there's ways that you can attack this team and beat them as we hit on. To me, I think Philadelphia, I have to give them 23 points at least. I think that's respectable. They are a team that's going to score some points and they're going to run the ball, which definitely can lower the score of this game as a whole, which I think that's why you could make this possibly lower because both teams are going to look to run the football, I think, which could make the game kind of fly by. But I'm still going to go a little bit higher than I maybe feel extremely comfortable with because I could see this being low, but I think there's going to be enough explosive plays where both teams are going to have big plays in this game. And our outside receivers are going to have to step up when they get one-on-one because they're going to get it a lot, I think, because I think they're going to play a lot of single high safety, so our guys are going to have to win on the outside. And then flip side, we're going to have to stand up sometimes against some of those big time outside receivers they have, specifically AJ Brown. I'm sure they're going to want to go through him. So to me, I'm going to go Lions 26, Eagles 23 at home. I think the Lions win over the Eagles. Eagles 23, Lions 26. I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. I think it's week 1, so I got to predict the dub, and I think we can win this game even though it's going to be a test. I struggle to go a lot higher than that because I have respect for what the Eagles can do offensively and defensively. This game could be much lower scoring as this game could absolutely fly by with all the running, but I think there will be some shot plays there, especially in week 1. There's going to be mistakes. Both teams are going to make mistakes. It's probably going to be dumb turnovers. There's going to be dumb penalties. It's week 1. It's going to be ugly in some ways. So there's going to be some ugliness that could lead to opportunities, and as Dan Campbell said, when it's this early in the season, whoever makes the less mistakes sometimes wins these football games, and I'm going to go with the Lions, and hopefully Austin Seibert does well. 26-23. I'm going to go with the dub there to start the season. Again, I will be unable to watch this game, so there will be no stream tomorrow. But let me know your score prediction down in the comments below. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can on takeaways. Hopefully you're excited as I am for this game. I took a lot of time doing this preview because I'm so pumped for football to be here, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and your prediction. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.